Good day, everybody. So this is now the second video of our new season. I'm sitting here with Vairaag Panchoo. He is our liaison officer from FDIA, and he's got quite a bit of knowledge on SANS10139. We're going to work through that. I'm going to ask him some difficult questions, but he's a boffin, so you can answer all of them. Morning, Vairaag. So you want to introduce yourself?
Morning, Clive. Vairaag Panchoo, liaison officer for FDIA for the last several years.
Yep.
We're looking at representing FDIA on the SANS committees, as well as with various other partner organizations within the industry association. And the idea is to establish a baseline so that we can work consistently throughout the industry in terms of standards, in terms of best practice, so that we're speaking with one voice to the people out there and to our members.
Yeah, and that's quite a challenge. So what we're going to do is, firstly of all, why should my installation be compliant? What is the use of a compliant installation?
Look, there's several benefits and advantages. The intent for any standard is to establish a minimum performance criteria or a minimum achievable requirement for the installation. For SANS10139, it defines the criteria for compliance for fire detection systems. The regulation is SANS10400. However, SANS10400 refers to SANS10139 as the basis on which a fire detection design is done, where it's a deemed to satisfy approach. There's a lot of arguments around rational fire design, but we're not going to get into that now. SANS10139 looks at design, installation, commissioning, defining the characteristics of the systems, performance and maintenance, and also looks at the people that are doing the design, installation, and commissioning. So your entire system is framed around the standard or within the standard, and the minimum performance criteria for the different types of detectors, the devices, the application of those devices in particular environments is mapped out within the standard.
So if I've got a building and I'm installing a fire detection system and it's compliant, obviously that assists me on my risk reduction in the building, for instance.
So where you have a compliant system, your risks are reduced, and particularly in relation to insurance and compliance risks. Unfortunately, fire detection is another grudge purchase, and everyone treats it that way. Yep. There's a tendency towards spending more on the water feature at the front of the building than spending on a proper life safety system within your premises. And there's a lot of sort of side effects for that, or causes for that. There's a lot of non-compliant installers out there who are not familiar with standards and have been doing fire detection installations without understanding the framework and the prerequisites. And as such, the industry has had a bad reputation generally. So it's very important for any end user to identify a properly certified and accredited partner, and not just the partner, not just the company, but the individuals that are doing the installation as well need to be properly accredited and certified. And you have certifications for designer, commissioner, installation, and sort of maintenance technicians as well need to be certified within those categorizations.
Yeah, that's talking back to our introduction where we were discussing the difference between SAQCC, FDIA, and so on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So for a client, it's very important that they should make sure that their system is compliant and designed and supplied within the framework of the standard. And
the way SANS10139 speaks to that is it defines all of those criteria within the framework.
Yeah.
So your installer, your designer, first of all, needs to be certified to be a designer.
Yeah.
As a competent person, needing to have the right accreditation and certification, and you've spoken about that already. There's a design document, a design certificate that's created and generated, which maps out the prerequisites like cause and effect, layout, positioning of devices, types of devices, selection and location of devices, and correct application.
And that's all covered in the SANS standards.
Within the SANS standards.
And that is where we're going back to FDIA, that people have to have the right technicians, right staff in place and the right training so that they can do the work properly.
Absolutely. And then very much like the designer, you have an installer.
Yeah.
And the assumption is that installer is a basic, someone that fits a pipe. That's not actually the case.
Not at all.
There's a lot of criteria prerequisites that are defined very clearly that talk about the method of installation, and there's a lot of design that goes, a lot of training that goes into the process for a proper installer.
I know, for instance, that he's got to be able to recognize that he's using the right cable in the right place, got to use the right type of fittings to fit the cable. He should be able to pick up if a detector's been placed in the wrong place by mistake, the wrong type of equipment in the wrong place.
Remember, a designer does his work off a drawing.
Yeah.
The installer is your first hands on site to be able to do physical installation, and he might identify situations where a deviation or change is needed, or practical shift is required because of the physical installation requirements. So the installer is the first person that makes those adjustments.
Yeah.
And then once he's finished, you move to
He should then go back to the designer and say, I cannot install this here and here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So any deviations are identified, any changes are identified, and then the commissioner comes in. And they do functional testing and confirmation of the operation of the system. They look at the correctness of the devices. They give a certification. They give a certification of confirmation that the system is performing and operating the way the designer intended.
Yeah.
All the way down to the cause and effect matrix, which is part of the system design. And then that final commissioning then leads to the handover, and hopefully a satisfied customer with a working system, who then needs to appoint a certified maintainer of that system.
Yep.
A system is not compliant unless you've engaged a proper maintenance contract with a service and maintenance, certified service and maintenance service provider.
So as we see from this short discussion, there's a lot of responsibilities that are required as far as making a compliant system, and the end user as well has to be aware of that. Ignorance is no excuse. So, and that is why we're doing these videos. So, yeah.
A lot of the problem that we see is that there's a shortcut approach, a path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And the race to the bottom in the industry is a net effect of that.
Yeah.
Everyone is chasing the cheapest price. Compliance is not a priority. And often the initials are started. You start off with a decent design, but the testing and the confirmation is not done properly because the guys that have started the installation are probably the cheapest contractor.
Yeah.
And most of the time, a non-certified contractor.
Unfortunately,
and subcontractor and everyone else that gets onto the job is not certified to actually do the work. That's
awesome. Vairaag, well, thank you for your time, and I'm sure that we will knock on your door again to add some more input on this. But yeah, so Vairaag, Clive, thanks a lot everyone for watching, and any questions, contact FDIA, look at the website, there's contact details there. Thank you.